Oh boy. Well, I'll wipe my lens. It's still a little fuzzy, but here's the test. I've just completed Don's all-wheel pickup tender trucks. Oh well, that's not too exciting, is it? Okay. Let's see if we put something on the track that we run over. Does that get exciting? I don't know. I don't know anything. I just work here part-time. Wow. Does that get exciting? All-wheel pickup. And I had to jimmy the wires a little bit because I couldn't find all my little alligator clips, and I have like 8 of them. Yeah, where are they? I don't know. Okay, so I wired the light up. We have 2 leads on the left, 2 leads on the right. I'm gonna let the owner wire those up. I'm not giving him this chassis. We're gonna take these off here, so he will own them. We went with steel wheels because I ran out of brass, and he was so kind. He said, sure, steel's fine. But the design is fairly identical. A lot of little minor updates and upgrades. It's hard to explain. I'm using 2 types of pickup wire. I have a copper colored and a silver colored. They're both beryllium copper from 2 different sources, and I just wanted to get a feel from this user if one seems to hold up or last longer or work better. We'll see what he says, if he can figure that out, which I think he can. And in my assembly process, I realized that I had designed these trucks when I was building the Vanderbilt tender chassis. And at the time, the Vanderbilt chassis had the ability to put in an extra hole. Here there is a hole, right? Which would be for the, there you can see it, that hole is for the coupler connector. I mean connector, the connector to the drawbar of the engine that goes out. It'd be like the 293 or K5, something like that. Comes from here and goes to the, well, what I do is I connect it to the bulkhead firebox that I put in. We'll figure that out. But back here I had another hole already there, and then I just screwed in an old K-line coupler that I had laying around. Now we're gonna have to come up with something else. I don't know what engines. He said he has Atlantics. This is an Atlantic, but obviously it's a tin plate tender chassis. If he has the other chassis, there may or may not be a hole there, so he'll have to figure out his coupler connection. Or as time goes on, I could make adaptions, I suppose, to this, what I call pivot frame. This little piece that's in here and pivots. I could, and I had one earlier on an earlier version of this that actually came out and had a space to bolt a flyer coupler to. So I may make a version where that has, you have a front and a back, and one comes out and the other doesn't. Or I could do them both, one the same, and one does the link to the engine and one does the coupler. I'll have to get his feedback on what he would prefer and what works for him. My soldering skills aren't so great. I did that one second and this one first, and I kind of got better as I went, I'm afraid to say. But we have the 3D printed parts, the pivot pins here, then the pivot frame, then the side frames, and then the axle adapters, in which I'm taking an axle, cutting it in half, and splitting the difference. And they're independent. There's a piece of plastic inside there that separates the axles, so they're not connected. There's no continuity on the axle. Some other changes were just simple things like spacings and clearances and tolerances and things like that. But I also had the notion of, oh, and I got to do is springs. I have some made. I got to finish that and pop those in. That's not a problem. The design of the frame is open for debate. This, if I keep everything else the same, this is probably the easiest thing to change. So if there's inputs or variances or changes or different types and styles, I think that's accommodate. I can do that. If we needed a 3-axle, like on a longer passenger car, I think I could add a second wheel here, shrink this up a little. Oops, sorry. Shrink this up and add a third wheel on one side, just like they have on the heavyweights, you know, where it's offset screws between 2 wheels and the third axle is separate. I could do the same thing, I'm sure, with everything else the same. I would just add another wheel out here, but then we'd have to worry about how it looks from a suspension point of view. You want it to be semi-realistic at any rate. I'm also thinking I can print these in silver, and then we can either buff them up or paint them. I also have red, so I'm going to print a pair of them in red for voila. Yes, the anniversary engine will be in red. Probably the Corvette engine will be in red and some others. But we'll have fun with it. We'll see how it turns out. This is for Don up in Michigan. I'm going to take them off. They're done. They're tested, ready to go. And all I'm going to do is install the springs. They're just decorative, but they look really nice. I have some over here. I'll show you real quick. I can get up and walk around. Fairly easy. Yeah, here you go. Here's some of the production set that I put together yesterday, and I'm working on how to make them more uniform and all that. So I'll be putting these in, and then his system will be his first, my first production and his first ever released all-wheel power pickup American Flyer tender trucks will ship probably tomorrow. Okay, that's it. That's the story. That's what we're up to. Hi, busy. Quite interesting, quite fun. Looking at suppliers and sources and how do you put all this together. You know, me in the basement, part-time retired, it's not easy. But we'll get there. It's going to be cool. They work really nice, I have to say. They are really smooth. Okay, that's it now. Talk to you later. My soldering iron is calling me.